It is 5:30 a.m. on August 26, 1980. The casino floor rests in the hush between night and day, the air smelling of smoke and cleaner's solvent, a few custodians rolling carts while slot machines blink leftover lights. State Line, Nevada, tucks against Lake Tahoe, calm at this hour. The crowds won't arrive until the sun is up, when buses pour in and lobbies fill with chatter and coins. For now, the town exhales. A security guard on his usual circuit turns onto the second floor, steps into a plush corridor, and halts. In the center of the executive suite sits a metal box that does not belong. Rectangular, gray, industrial, it has been raised on 4 small blocks of wood, a deliberate detail. No power cord, no brand plate, no glass, no copier tray. Whoever left it took care not to scuff the carpet or leave tracks. He notices an envelope placed beside the box. The flap is stamped Harvey's Management in block letters. A custodian approaches, and the guard says, "Do not touch anything." The humor dies when he opens the envelope. Inside is a single sheet, stern warning to the management and bomb squad. The note states that any movement of less than .01 on the Artor scale will set off the device. It warns not to attempt disassembly. The exterior flathead screws are tied to triggers, and even a quarter turn, maybe half a turn, would produce an explosion. He clears the area and makes the call that will empty a floor and start a race against time. By dawn, the corridor outside Harvey's is ringed by local law enforcement, the quiet broken by clipped radio traffic. Sheriff's deputies and the Tahoe Douglas bomb squad arrive. Gas lines are shut off. Guests leave through side exits to shuttles. Buses move them to a nearby high school gymnasium. The casino, normally a hum, becomes a deadened space where the upper floor is sealed and a strange machine sits. Bomb technicians work methodically. They record everything, dust for prints, lift any usable trace, and shave off small paint scrapings. An X-ray unit is rolled in, its plates too small to capture the entire thing at once. They scan section by section, building a picture in pieces. The images validate the letter's claim. The device is intricate and intentional. The lower section shows a near-solid mass, dense as stone, with thick wires dropping from the top into it. The ransom letter says the device contains 1,000 pounds of tent, a term that will have scientists arguing semantics later. Looking at composition and construction, metallurgists and explosive experts reach a grim consensus. The device appears to be packed with nearly 1,000 pounds of stolen dynamite. The seams are exact. The wiring is careful. It is professional. The top plate carries 28 toggle switches in 2 neat rows. All are set uniformly except the 23rd switch, pushed it up like a single raised finger. The impression is not a practical control panel, but a message. The letter demands $3 million in used 100 bills and promises that after payment, instructions will be given to disable 2 of the 3 internal timers. It threatens that another device will be placed someplace else if directions aren't followed. If the X-ray interpretation is accurate, there is no margin for experimentation. A wrong nudge or screwdriver tap could take out the floor, the wing, maybe more. The call goes out to widen the evacuation. Surrounding casinos begin to empty. Across the street, Hara's boards windows in case the blast throws debris. By late morning, a public hotline is up to explain what can be explained. Inside the taped-off suite, the bomb's configuration includes everything designed to frustrate human hands. Mercury switches sensitive to tilt and vibration, atmospheric sensors for pressure changes, float triggers, and those menacing screws hardwired into detonators. Each part punishes intervention. The question hangs there. How do you disarm what was constructed never to be disarmed? For now, slow everything down. Buy time. Call in more help. The FI is contacted, and teams are on the road and in the air before lunch. Special agents, bomb experts, metallurgists, analysts arrive and gather in a parking lot near the entrance, turning folding tables into a field office with radios and laid-out photographs. Plans are proposed and discarded. The X-ray plates tell the same story. The top half is electronics and traps. The lower half is mass. If the 1,000-pound claim is close, the resulting explosion would flatten much of the immediate neighborhood. A lab technician examining the steel housing spots a faint smear. The test comes back, blood. It is swabbed, sealed, and prepared for a trip to the FIS laboratory in Washington. In a case like this, everything is useful. Detectives and agents call specialists. The bomb lab, metallurgists with niche expertise, and the nuclear emergency search team are consulted. Assistance arrives from Reno and Sacramento. What looked like a one-off nightmare at dawn is, by midday, recognized as one of the most serious domestic bomb cases anyone has faced. The Nevada National Guard is consulted in case the evacuation needs to stretch out beyond the immediate blocks. Harris Casino, connected to Harvey's by an underground tunnel, shuts down to keep people away from risk. The high school gym fills with baggage and blankets and 1,000 inconveniences. Families on bleachers, coffee in paper cups, hotel staff tracking guests. Outside the cordon, reporters find vantage points and talk steadily into microphones. The official guidance is simple: keep at least 1,200 feet away. Inside the suite, technicians take their cues from caution. They are not going to rush a device designed to reward haste with catastrophe. Evidence begins its own journey. Forensic samples, paint, metal filings, hair, fiber, are arranged for flights to Washington. Every fingerprint is compared, every solder mark examined with a magnifier for a characteristic hand. Metallurgists study welds and cuts, looking for tells in tools or methods. The clock runs. The letter mentions 3 timers, independent paths to detonation. Hours pass. The Douglas County Sheriff calls for more federal backup, and by mid-afternoon, FI helicopter sets down with Special Agent Bill Junkie and a team out of Las Vegas. Inside, the machine sits as it has since morning. Agent Junkie studies the photos and reads the letter aloud. A movement of less than 0.01 on the Artor scale will trigger it. The flathead screws are rigged, and even the maker could not take it apart without setting it off. The demand: $3 million in unmarked $100 bills. On the business side, Harvey Gross listens while options are sketched out. "I'm not paying $3 million," he says. He later authorizes a token $5,000 and instructs the agents to do what they must. The letter gives meticulous delivery directions. The ransom is to be handled by a helicopter pilot who lands at Lake Tahoe Airport at 2300 hours, pointed east, without a weapon and without a passenger. He is to wait by the chain-link fence until further orders arrive, either by a taxi or by a phone call to a public telephone at exactly 10 hours. Before he lifts off, he must shine a flashlight through the helicopter's interior to demonstrate he is alone. The author wants to control timing, position, and proof of compliance. For the FI, that fixation offers both danger and an opening. If the delivery proceeds, the route may expose a handoff, a vantage point, or a vehicle. The strategy is to make the drop look real while building in safeguards. Serial numbers on legitimate currency are recorded. Bags are filled with cut paper to keep the weight and shape convincing. The pilot carries a hidden transmitter. Unmarked cars take up positions along Highway 50. Drivers assigned mile markers and instructions to move only when told. At midnight, the phone rings at the airport as the letter promised. The pilot takes down instructions exactly. He is told to fly west along Highway 50 at 500 feet for 15 miles until he sees a flashing strobe marking the landing point. He lifts, tracks the highway through the dark. Ground units keep pace, headlights low. They do not find a strobe, mile after mile. Whether this missed rendezvous is a dodge to test compliance or deliberate, the result holds. No meeting, no handoff, no voice. When the pilot returns, the realization lands. The explosive inside the casino is only half of the threat. The other half is control through information. He dictates tempo and everyone else keeps his time. Morning brings certainty on 2 points. The bomb at Harvey's is very real, and the person behind it is still choosing visibility on his terms. That flight should have produced a point of contact. Instead, it underlines the game. He never meant to be there. The next day, the focus changes. What had been an extortion response becomes a layered criminal investigation. Calls to the FI hotline are logged, captured in transcripts, cross-checked against timelines. Local press keeps the story in motion, and with every broadcast, more calls come. People describe men in white overalls near delivery bays at odd hours, a white van in a restricted area before sunrise. Every lead is checked. Within the command post, 2 tracks run in parallel. Technicians pull apart X-rays, sketch wiring possibilities, and consider how each relay might interact. Metallurgical samples are categorized and compared. Investigators follow human threads, motel registries, plates captured in early morning fog, purchase histories, lists of missing explosives. Patterns emerge. The X-rays show intent, a layered set of responses to every expected move. The top half is dense with circuits, mercury switches, relays, and timers, while the lower half is almost entirely explosive mass. Analysts from the Nuclear Emergency Search Team run models. If it goes, the hotel likely loses a major section, and Hera across the roadway would take significant damage. It points to someone who understands mechanics and charges, not a gambler who came apart in the night. Memory returns to a wooden truss bridge near Fresno, destroyed weeks before by a dynamite blast. Investigators stop treating that as separate and begin to see it as a test. Around those same weeks, large amounts of dynamite went missing from construction sites in the Fresno and Clovis area. Those reports are folded into a bigger picture. Public pleas go out. The FI raises its reward. Flyers move through Nevada and California, and reports move into homes across the country, where people hear about a 5-story hole cleaved into a hotel by a device too complicated to touch. Calls come in waves. Most go nowhere, but a handful of details repeat. A specific plate, sightings of a white van with certain features, descriptions of a man with an accent and a temper who railed about getting back at a casino. Inside the bureau, behavioral analysts read the letter. The writer's voice is tight, controlled, methodical. The formal phrasing, the exact terms, the insistence on dictating steps, his shape shines through. It points to technical training and an outsized need to control. The motive begins to crystallize, a grievance shaped into a project, a personal grudge over gambling losses and perceived humiliation married to a capable skill set. The FI zeroes in on the explosives thefts from 2 months before the device appeared at Harvey's. Sites outside Fresno reported that several hundred pounds of dynamite had gone missing, not in dribs, but in quantities that speak to storage knowledge and boldness. Agents cross-reference the theft reports against vehicle registrations for white vans and commercial trucks in the region, build lists, then reduce them. One name rises repeatedly, not in bold font, but in the edges: Gene Burgess, a Hungarian immigrant in Clovis, California. He runs a landscaping company. People describe him as industrious, increasingly temperamental, proud. He drives a white van. He matches multiple tips. More importantly, his history includes familiarity with explosives. He spent time in a Soviet labor camp before immigrating. He has told people he flew as a pilot during World War II and that he built things almost intuitively. Those around him know contradictions: sharp and careless, proud but inconsistent, a heavy gambler who pushed his luck at Harvey's casino and burned through what he calls a fortune. Agents in Fresno begin watching. They collect statements from neighbors and former employees. Some recall late-night bangs and bright sparks from the workshop, unfamiliar faces coming and going, and wooden crates eased into the van. That kind of activity gains meaning when stacked against Harvey's. The investigation narrows around Burgess and those nearest him. He has 2 sons who work alongside him. They are young and loyal. Their father's will often decides for them. Conversations surface. He talked about people who wronged him, about getting even, about making someone pay. The FI's case accelerates when pressure intersects with chance. One of Burgess's sons tells a girlfriend pieces of what his father is planning. That relationship ends. The girlfriend shares the story with someone new, and when that person hears the FI's reward is real, he reaches out. The tip is taken down and vetted, then escalated. Now there's a witness who links Burgess not just to a van or a job site, but to the bomb. Agents retrace the van's movements and confirm sightings around Lake Tahoe that align with when the device was moved into place. Parallel to those interviews, forensics deliver confirmation. The paint from the box casing matches the brand and composition commonly used in Berg's shop. Wires recovered from the device are indistinguishable from spools sold by a nearby hardware store that kept track of sales under his name. The faint blood smear on the steel matches an injury Burgess reportedly suffered days before the bomb appeared. The speculation hardens. One thread pulls another. The FE follows the chain from stolen dynamo to components assembled at Harvey's. The toggles, relays, and feed mechanisms tie back not to a military catalog, but to agricultural equipment supplies from Berg's landscaping operation. A turkey feeder carries identical toggles and sensors to those now fixed to a device the country is talking about. Piece by piece, a puzzle completes itself until the outline is irrefutable. When agents move to make the arrest, the circle is closed enough to hold. On August 16, 1981, almost a year to the week after the bomb tore open the hotel, FI agents and local police surround Burgess's Fresno home. He is taken into custody without chaos. Neighbors spill out, watching as boxes leave the workshop. They see wires, tools with specific wear, photographs, loose parts, handwritten notes. In one corner sits an unfinished metal box, squared and familiar. From a distance, the arrest of John Burgess looks cinematic. Up close, the process starts inch by inch, the unraveling of a man who constructed what is, by consensus, the most refined, improvised explosive device these agents have faced. Burgess is quiet, more assured than anxious, still calculating. In his workspace, they find what they expect and some of what they fear. Spools of wiring, identical to the kind in the casino device. Empty crates that once held diamond. Sketches and mechanical drawings that mirror what the FI has started to call the machine. The notes are not confessions, but they speak with the same precise hand. Under questioning, Burgess denies knowing anything about the bomb. He claims enemies and disgruntled former employees are feeding lies, and that coincidences can be made to look like intent. The more he talks, the less the story holds. Over interviews that stretch in hours and then days, his tone adjusts. He admits to gambling heavily at Harvey's resort hotel. He acknowledges losing more than $700,000 there. He does not deny fantasizing about hurting the place that, in his words, took everything. Agents show him the blueprints, the metallurgical matches, the receipts, and statements from those he trusted. The veneer slips. The case is not simply him facing a device as intricate as he made. It is him facing the people who carried his plans. The evidence tracks outward. He did not operate alone. Two men tied to his landscaping business, Terry Hall and Willis Brown, helped transport and deliver the bomb, arriving as photocopier technicians. A woman named Ella Williams typed the extortion letter. They did what he directed, not fully comprehending what they moved or not letting themselves. When confronted with the totality, Burgess's sons pivot to cooperation. They tell investigators how their father insisted they help ferry explosives, how he talked about squeezing the casino for money, about a reckoning. Their cooperation saves them from prison. Their testimony fixes the case in a way no part or blueprint could. In 1982, after a trial that draws attention far beyond California, John Burgess is found guilty on 8 counts, among them conspiracy, interstate transport of explosives, and attempted extortion. The sentence is life in prison without the possibility of parole. The judge calls the act cold, calculated arrogance. The accomplices face justice in their lanes. Terry Hall is convicted that same year and sentenced for conspiracy and for moving explosives across state lines. Willis Brown pleads guilty, trading admission for a reduced term. Ella Williams, convicted on attempted extortion and conspiracy, wins an overturn on appeal. She pleads guilty later to being an accessory and serves a light sentence, earning early parole. In State Line, life tries to reset, even while the structure that anchored the town stands wounded. In the days after the device detonated, Harvey's resort hotel looks like a skeleton, twisted steel and shattered concrete, where people thought about dinner plans the day before. The force carved a 5-story crater into the core of the building. Televisions hang, pipes jut, burned furniture clings in midair. Images of the aftermath move from newsroom to living room, and the scale lands heavy. What stays is that the horror is stitched with something like grace. The destruction is immense, and yet not a single life was taken. Harrah's across the street, connected underground by a tunnel, suffers blown-out windows and structural bruises, but reopens within days. Harvey's makes its own statement. It will not quit. Crews cleared debris day and night. By May 1981, less than a year on, the hotel stands repaired and opens its doors. The crater is filled and finished. People who lived those days still point out where it once was, even if nothing public shows it. Far from the lake, the FBI holds on to the case in a way the public cannot see. At Quantico, bomb technicians build a full-scale reproduction of what sat on that carpeted floor, using photographs, X-rays, and fragments to piece together its logic. This model becomes a teaching tool for years, a reminder of why rules and patient methods exist. Among explosive experts, the Harvey's device becomes a benchmark, the most complex improvised explosive device retrieved intact in the United States. The man at the center spends the remainder of his years in the Southern Nevada Correctional Center. Burgess grows older, quieter. In 1996, 16 years, and one day after the explosion, he dies of liver cancer at the age of 74. For the Bureau, there is a kind of completion. A man who believed he had built something undefeatable is gone, not by countermeasure, but by time. Even after he is gone, the story does not fade out. The FI's laboratory division returns to the case in classrooms, dissects the bomb across lessons, and points to it when showing how cunning in the wrong service becomes danger. The model remains on display. Experienced techs remember what it demanded, and new techs study its interior like a difficult text. The wiring still weaves. Back in State Line, the rhythm returns. Tourists are back on the floor, calling and laughing under neon, the air carrying that casino mix of hope and habit. Under it is a memory that refuses to disappear. The rebuilt floor carries a whisper, a slight shift in tile color where old meets new, a seam in the story of a place. For those who were there, the Harvey's bombing remains a paradox that resists easy telling. It is the story of catastrophe that spared every life, a device that, in one sense, worked and in another, failed. The bomb detonated. No one died. The hotel tore open. The investigation held together and brought names and faces into a courtroom. The lesson under the facts is that the same patience and precision the maker poured into the device saved people when applied in reverse by those who refused to rush it. It is about obsession to its endpoint, how intelligence unbounded by restraint turns inward and ruins the person who feeds it. John Burgess convinced himself he had built a perfect machine that would bend others to his will and prove his superiority. What remained afterward was a hole in a hotel floor, measures that kept hundreds safe, and a quiet that stretched from ceiling to lake as the first light hit the water. Dawn rises over Lake Tahoe again and again. The rebuilt casino lights reflect and shimmer, and the people who step through the doors think in terms of games and chances. The game continues. If you found this story compelling, remember to like the source and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us bring you more true crime investigations told with care and detail.